You headed to school.
Ooh, Alabama gets the number 1 safety in the country. What was it about Alabama?
LSU Tigers, number 1. Go Tigers.
In the next 4 years, I'm going to Denver University.
Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, 256-576-4977. Now, here's D Squared.
Welcome, everyone, to this Friday edition of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I am D Squared, Drew DeArmond. It's great to be with every one of you, and we are going to talk some NBA draft to start the show because it was quite a draft night last night. It was a historic one for our community. There's no question about that. As for the first time in Huntsville City Schools history, we have a first-round draft choice now. So many great players we've had. Been blessed to have to see them grow and blossom in their careers. But Kobe Brown, Lee High School alum, all SEC first team at Missouri under Dennis Gates this past season. He is the SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year, 30th overall to the Los Angeles Clippers. Second time in 3 seasons that we've seen this happen. Kyra Lewis, of course, made history as the first from Madison County, from Hazel Green High School to Alabama to the NBA, as he went 13th overall in the lottery, first lottery pick, and still only one in Madison County history to the New Orleans Pelicans. And our next guest knows both of them very well. He's so well connected in the basketball world and community. We're blessed to have him in North Alabama. He, of course, was in player development with the Boston Celtics and Orlando Magic with Doc Rivers for many years, and now is the director of the Nike Elite Stars in the EYBL circuit in Nike and AAU basketball. And he's going to join us and been kind enough to do so this morning and talk a little NBA draft, and that is Coach Scott Whittle. Coach, it's great to be with you again. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Drew.
Yeah, no doubt. And Well, Coach, I know we weren't surprised that Brandon Miller went number 2. I mean, I think you told me right after the lottery happened, we were texting and we talked, and you said that you felt like it was the tea leaves were lining up for Brandon. I know there was some stuff out there yesterday trying to create drama leading up to the draft about Scoot Henderson and some decision making by the Hornets, but it just felt like with LaMelo Ball being there already, being a big part of that franchise, that Brandon was the best fit. We know about the off-the-court situation with Alabama basketball. It never seemed to hurt Brandon throughout the draft process, though. And Brandon Miller making history, tying Antonio McDyess for the highest drafted Bama player of all time at number 2. And I know you still follow the NBA very closely. You're still so connected. How do you see Brandon Miller fitting in with that franchise?
Well, I mean, he's in a good situation. The team wasn't very good, so they're going to be reliant on guys like him to come in, score the basketball. He's got a good point guard with LaMelo Ball, as you mentioned. Apparently they have made a little connection even before the draft, so I expect them to have a good combination. And, later on they took one of his Bradley Beal elite teammates, and Nick Smith Jr., so
that's right.
He's going to be very comfortable there. I don't know how comfortable it is going at the GOAT like he did with Michael Jordan, but he will be a guy that plays a lot of minutes, and rookies make mistakes, but he'll be able to play a lot of minutes, and get through that and kind of get through that rookie curve that a lot of guys face, but he's a really good shooter. He's got good range. He's got a quick release. So all those things will be helpful, in today's NBA game. So I think, he's probably the favorite to be, Rookie of the Year. I mean, everybody's going to say Victor will be, but, it's really, the style of play in which Greg Popovich plays, not to get off topic, that might lend to a guy like Brandon Miller having better stats. I mean, everybody's going to be talking about Victor, and he's going to get all the hoopla, but Brandon Miller's sneaky good, and his, you saw his development going to the basket Alabama, and his outside shooting was steadfast. He shot it at a high clip, and that's what you have to do in today's NBA, and I think he's going to do it well for Charlotte.
Well, and you evaluate players all the time. I mean, I've been hearing about Victor Wembanyama for 2 or 3 years, so we knew about him coming that he was overseas and was a freakazoid prospect. I'll freely admit I haven't watched him a ton. He looks like he is a kind of a unicorn with such a unique skill set for someone that's 7'4". Now, we've seen these big guys that were post players that never became dominant forces, though, that were, the 7'5", 7'6" kind of guys like, George Mirasan. He had injury problems. He wasn't mobile. Sean Bradley, same deal. Yao Ming had a lot of injuries. This guy hasn't, and he has the perimeter skills that you don't see many centers. I thought that Jay Billis made interesting comparisons to Ralph Sampson, but Ralph came up in a different time when bigs weren't really there weren't stretch fours, there weren't stretch fives. What kind of prospect is Wembanyama? How good is he in your mind?
He's got a lot of Kevin Durant to his game at 7'5". Kevin Durant's not quite as tall. I mean, he's not going to be the slasher that KD is and was coming into the league out of Texas. But I think his ability to handle the ball the way he does and being able to shoot it over anybody that'll be defending him is going to, allow him to have a lot of success. I do think, even though he doesn't think he's going to need to be a little stronger, I mean, you see guys like Nikola Jokic for Denver, and I don't care if he's got a 5-inch span on him in height. I mean, he's going to push him around. So
right.
I think he's going to have to, bulk up, which he will. And in doing so, I think as long as it doesn't really affect his shot, which really looks good, especially off the bounce, I think he's going to do big things. I mean, he's a definite double-double guy right out of the gate for San Antonio. And, he's also on a team that struggled greatly. So he's going to have a lot of opportunity similar to Brandon Miller. So I think he's probably the second-best prospect that's come out in the last 20 years, and with LeBron being just ahead of him.
Well, and I can remember being at Alabama in the late 90s and early 2000s, and then continuing to go to Bama games. I actually did see Damian Lillard at Weber State play against Alabama, and he was a dynamic player. He's had a great career with Portland. He hasn't been able to get them to the finals or to win a championship. And it's been very difficult for the Trailblazers, except for the 1-1 under Bill Walton and Jack Ramsey. So it hasn't been easy. But he's stayed there. He hasn't demanded a trade. We saw Scoot Henderson be drafted 3rd overall by Portland. They certainly would have taken Brandon Miller if he'd have been there. But in your mind and with the NBA contacts you have, are we going to see Lillard be on the move? Or is from what Woj was saying last night, Lillard doesn't want to be traded. He wants to continue to stick it out. What ultimately do we make of Scoot Henderson going to Portland?
Well, it was pretty simple. He was the best player available, and they took him. It gives them options as far as any kind of trade goes, whether it be for Lillard or if they decide to move Scoot Henderson for a package of prospects or a player that can come in and help them right away. But at the end of the day, they can play together.
Yeah.
I think they will probably try that. I don't really think Lillard gets traded. I'll tell you, unlike all the other major sports, trades in the National Basketball Association are the most difficult because you got to match up money.
Mm-hmm.
So when doing so, there's a lot of, you all oftentimes see another team have to get involved to make trades happen.
Porzingis, we saw
because
that.
of that.
Yeah.
That they don't happen as often as they do in other sports. So I think it's going to be hard to move him. They will have people that are interested in him, but I think he stays and plays with Henderson.
Very interesting. And then I know you had some great intel on the Noah Clowney situation with Brooklyn, but even that got hairy last night because certainly when I was following the draft process throughout, I didn't expect – but there's always somebody that seems to drop – Cam Whitmore of Villanova to drop all the way to 20, but he dropped to the Houston Rockets, and that probably was the best thing that happened for Noah Clowney.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be there at 20. I think his medical history in talking about Cam Whitmore probably was a hang-up for a lot of NBA GMs. But when I've talked briefly with Sean Marks, the general manager for the Brooklyn Nets, and some of their scouts, they were very high on Clowney. He's a lengthy big that can drill the three, and those guys are highly sought after in a switch, spaced-out modern NBA. So he's a guy that can come in and play 4 or 5. You know, offensively, he has, you know, ability to space from corners, you know, and work in pick and pop, and you know, his length and his soft hands, you know, Drew, allow him to catch and finish, you know, off cuts to the basket. You know, you've seen he's a very impactful rebounder, and his defensive skills are very good because he's so mobile and he's so disciplined that he's valuable to a team like Brooklyn that switches and hedges its big, you know, onto perimeter players. So they had said clearly that they were even willing to trade up to get him.
Wow.
But they would not pass on him if he was still there. So, and they didn't, you know, and I think even if Cam Whitmore didn't go 20 of the Rockets and they decide to select him, I still think they take him with 22. So they had back-to-back picks there. So they stuck to their word and they didn't pass on him. And, you know, I like his fit there because they got Nick Claxton at center. You know, Clowney's, you know, a wiry big who can play 4 or 5. And, you know, their power forwards are, you know, Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson. They also got Deron Sharp, the 2 Carolina products there in Brooklyn. So I think it's a good fit. I see him as a guy that is going to be an improved three-point shooter. I've even said at times I think long-term he could even be a better NBA player than Brandon Miller. A lot of guys are going to blast me for saying that, but I think down the road he's age 19, a little younger than Miller is right now, and I think his upside is really, really high.
Well, they're both in the NBA, but I got to give you know, one of our friends, Garrett Tucker, a lot of credit. He told me when they were both like sophomores, he said, "Look, man, remember when I tell you this?" He said, because Trendon Watford was so highly touted throughout his whole career, great career for Bucky McMillan at Mountain Brook, went on to play at LSU and is now with Portland in the NBA. But he told me, he said, Kyra Lewis will go higher in the draft than Trendon Watford. And of course, Watford was never drafted. Kyra made history. We've already talked about that. I know you're very close to that family. This is a big year for Kyra. He had to come back this year from the ACL. But I know with that, the Pelicans draft Jordan Hawkins. We don't know the long-term viability. We think they're going to hold on to Zion for now. But how big a year is this for Kyra to continue to establish himself as he'll be entering, hard to believe, already his 4th year in the league?
Yeah, it's obviously big because, you know, they've had a little bit of success and tasted some playoff success even the last 2 years. So, you know, Herb Jones has been, you know, good, you know, for them, if not great, as a second rounder. They've got the pieces since they've got Zion and Brandon Ingram, and, you know, they've got, of course, you know, C.J. McCollum, you know, so he's by a veteran that he can learn from. And I think, you know, he hasn't really lost anything in terms of his speed and quickness after his, you know, rehabbing from the injury. And I think, you know, he only appeared in 25 games last year, and getting to play 65 to 75 games will certainly help him. They have, you know, Jose Alvarado, who did a good job for them, averaged just under 10 points a game. So I think he's got guys that are pushing for minutes, but that's okay because he's a competitor and he's still young, and his quickness, you know, is something you just can't teach. So his shooting has improved. I look for him to have a big year and probably play 20-plus minutes a game. I think he was just a shade under 10 minutes a game last year in those 25 games he got to appear in, Drew. So I think the sky's the limit for him. But, you know, there was talks that they were going to trade up to get a guy like Scoot Henderson and move maybe Zion or Brandon Ingram, as you might have alluded to. And so I'm not really sure what the long-term plans are for them with their guards, but certainly this could be a breakout year, and if whether he stays with the Pelicans long term, it's certainly going to be an important year for him wherever he might end up. As we know, this is a business, so players move all the time for whatever reason. So I think it's certainly going to be an important and a big year, and I think he will definitely have a nice season in New Orleans this season.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'd like to see him be healthy. I know he's got the talent, the speed, and like you said, he's improved as a shooter. Going to be interesting to see how he evolves, hopefully with New Orleans. And Herb Jones has certainly outplayed his draft selection early in the second round. And hopefully, since I'm now putting some hot sauce on my crow, sitting here dashing it on there with Colby Jones, your guy, who had a great career at Xavier. He goes in the second round, almost became teammates with Nick Smith and Brandon Miller, but he's traded to Sacramento. Probably a good fit for him, a playoff team. He does a lot of things to help you win. But Colby Jones, much like Herb Jones, no relation there, but Herb was set up for success with New Orleans. Talk about Colby, going in the second round early, and then being traded to Sacramento and being a part of that young, good core that they've got there in a city where they had success, but it's been a long time since the days of Chris Webber, Jay Will and Vlade Divac and those guys, and Stojakovic.
Well, obviously, I've been very high on Colby Jones for quite some time.
Yes,
I mean, he's just your ultimate fundamental role player, and I think that'll translate well to the NBA. But when it comes to team needs, the Kings have a backcourt that's really spoken for when you talk about De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter, who are already under contract. And, they've got Keegan Murray. His brother got drafted last night, Chris Murray. And, Sabonis, they both take up the forward spot and, the center, respectively. So that leaves their biggest team need at small forward, which is Colby's position. Of course, they got Harrison Barnes. Mm-hmm. He was a free agent, so we'll see how that pans out. But really, Colby is a guy that has a chance to fill a roster spot right away. I like the situation for him, playing for Mike Brown, who, was a Greg Popovich product. He's a two-time NBA Coach of the Year. He's won 4 championships, albeit all as an assistant coach. He's got a young team that's hungry, a 3 seed last year, finished 48-34. And you enter a guy like Colby Jones, who, shot the ball improvingly. I should say he improved his shot considerably under Sean Miller this last year at Xavier. He's just a guy that can score off the dribble. He's a good playmaker. He rebounds extremely well and always did that. That was one of the things he led EYBL circuit in rebounds for guards. And he's a good defender. He's usually matched up against the best player on the opposing team. Some of his downsides are he's not an elite, athlete. He doesn't have the, the flashy, quick first step that you look for in a superstar. But there's something to be said for a role player. And I think you saw it a lot with the Miami Heat this year, Drew. Guys that embrace their roles and know it and play it to perfection like a lot of those guys did. There's success to be found in that, and Colby Jones will have success in the NBA. He's got great positional size at 6'6", so he can play either guard position, and he can even slide over to the wing, of course. He brought the ball up the court so he can play a little point if he's asked to. Mm-hmm. But I love Colby Jones. I liked him since he was at Mountain Brook under the shadows of Trenton Watford for some time for Bucky McMillan. And, I think it's a perfect fit, where he's going because, the two strong forwards are, Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray, both guys that he can compete with and learn from. And I just think he's a guy that will make a long career in the NBA as a really good role player.
No question. And then finally, Kobe Brown, what a story. We were hoping early second, even better than that. He made the right decision, worked out for teams, ends up with the final pick in the first round. I think he's going to get a 4-year, $12.2 million contract with an option. He's going to the Clippers, who they've got to decide the long-term future, but they're opening a new building. I think they need Kawhi and Paul George, but certainly Kobe can go there and make an impact. Your thoughts on Kobe Brown being a first-round pick, and ultimately winding up with the Clippers?
I got to say I was a bit surprised he was a first-rounder. I thought he was a fringe first-rounder, but definitely maybe an early second-rounder. But I will tell you, he's kind of been, a guy, out of Huntsville that was the 3-star who, Alabama passed on him, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and Auburn did too, yeah.
So he left the state. He goes to Missouri. He ends up getting a starting position his first year as a freshman, and he held on to that, Although he wasn't a great shooter for the first 3 years, I think he shot like 24% from outside the arc. That really changed under Dennis Gates. Gates had a big belief in him. He gave him the green light, which built up his confidence, and it resulted in, him having the best shooting season of his career. He shot 45% from triple. He averaged nearly 16 points, and he helped Missouri team win 25 games and reached the SEC tournament quarterfinals for the first time in program history. So, also, made his first NCAA tournament in probably over a decade. So, really, I credit Dennis Gates and his development, but for his confidence in Kobe Brown's success. But here's a guy that, Alabama would have loved to have gotten if Kobe Brown decided to get out of the draft. But obviously, he got some really good information from the pre-draft workouts. And one of his best workouts was in front of Ty Lue and the LA Clippers. So he, I think he's a guy that, he brings a little bit of experience, given that he's played so long, in college. So I think at 6'8", he can help the team, and it's a lot of money that he made extra by getting that pick in the first round too. So there's something to be said for that, because a lot of people don't know that second rounders, you don't have to sign them. First rounders are mandated. NBA rules mandate you to sign them and give them a contract. So a lot of money was made by being picked there in that first round for Kobe Brown, and it's really exciting for the city of Huntsville. I know you guys had him at the Huntsville City Classic before, so really brings a little credit to that tournament that's continuing to evolve. So really good for Kobe Brown. But I am a little bit surprised. And Missouri hasn't had a lot of history with guys getting drafted. I know Michael Porter Jr. was taken in 2018, and I think maybe before that it was probably Jordan Clarkson. So really, really big for not only Missouri, Huntsville, but the SEC as a whole too.
No question. And then finally, your thoughts. I know you're close to the Alabama basketball program and basketball in the state. Your thoughts on Jaron Stevenson committing to Alabama and how he fits, because he seems to be another potential Noah Clowney, though he's going to have to mature quickly. He's reclassified. And then Grant Nelson, do you still see that ultimately coming to fruition in him playing for Nate Oates in Alabama?
Yeah, first, as far as Stevenson goes, he was probably a top 10 or so pick. Not pick, excuse me. We're talking about the draft. I'm talking about picks. He was a top 10 prospect in his class, but definitely the number one power forward in the 24 class. By moving into the 23 class, that probably shifts him down in the mid-20s to 25, but still one of the top power forwards in the game. So there's going to be a lot of comparisons to him and Noah Clowney. He's got a little more flashing ability than maybe Clowney has or had. Clowney wasn't the biggest prospect coming out. He was probably 75 to 100 ranked, coming into Alabama as a freshman. But Stevenson definitely will be able to get in there in July in the summer, get some workouts, get some conditioning, and maybe bulk up a little bit more. And certainly that should help him. I don't think he's going to be a one-and-done type guy because of the reclassification. I think, and I think the last guy that did it was Kyra Lewis, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he's a guy that can come in maybe year two and play impactful minutes for us. And as far as Grant Nelson goes, I think it's just some academic stuff he's trying to clear up, and he should be doing that in short order. And I don't see anything changing in terms of him coming to Tuscaloosa and playing this year. And I think the roster's pretty shored up. I know several months ago I mentioned Preston Murphy on the show, and ironically, he messaged me last night during the draft about Colby Jones, and I point blank asked him when he's going to be in Tuscaloosa, and he said soon. So I don't think anything's changing there either. So I think we have one spot left. What we do with it remains to be seen, but I certainly believe our roster is pretty short up, and it's, you know, a lot of gaps were filled by both coaches and players that you saw get drafted last night.
Well, one of the best recruiting analysts in the business. If you want to talk state of Alabama basketball, high school, grassroots, you want to talk NBA, the Scott Whittle on Twitter, you got to have him, and we appreciate him for his time this morning breaking down the NBA draft, talking some Alabama hoops as well with Jaron Stevenson and Grant Nelson. Coach, it's always great to speak with you. Hope to see you soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Drew.
That's Scott Whittle. We're going to go on a break. When we come back, we are going to hear from LSU as they got that dramatic walk-off 2-0 win. Tommy White sending the Bayou Bengals to the finals as we are wrapping up another week of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. But don't forget, later this afternoon, the Bandyman, Bailey Lowry, Captain Cool John Abraham, who did a great job producing the Rocket City Award Show this past Monday. What a great job with all the audio and the videos that he helped us with. But they'll bring you the afternoon Blitz from 2 to 4. It's been another great week. Stay with us here on the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. LSU baseball up next.
You want the right specialist for your recovery. At SportsMed Orthopedic Surgery and Spine Center, we understand every body is different. Your muscles and bones are unique, as is your body. Our SportsMed specialists offer innovative treatments and minimally invasive procedures, allowing you to quickly return to the life you love. Locations in Huntsville, Madison, Athens, and Decatur, and on the web at sportsmedalabama.com. Improving performance, improving lives.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
A wise man once said, if you take care of old folks and children, everything in the middle will take care of itself.
Hi, I'm Danny Aldridge, lawyer in Alabama and Tennessee. In the next 20 years, the number of those folks over 65 years of age will more than double. In our golden years, the most important goal is to be treated with dignity and have control over doing what makes you grateful with those you love. At the Aldridge Law Firm and the Legal Town Center, we're dedicated to help you with these goals, and we'll be there when life throws you those inevitable curveballs. Let us assist you with your legal needs, whatever they may be or become. You may reach us by phone at 256-534-3188 or online with Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Just remember, we're here to help. Whether it's personal injury, wrongful death, fraud and cheat, or estate planning made complete, we're here to help.
Normally, when you call a roofing company, all you hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Since 1965, the folks at Fleming have been focused on what you need, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement, commercial or residential. And when it comes to storm damage, you want Fleming on your side. They know all the ins and outs of insurance claims and will guide you through the entire process. Log on FlemingHSV.com and book your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
I'm attorney Gary Lackey. If you've been injured and need a lawyer right now, and pick up the phone to call, you know, one you've seen on a billboard or on TV begging for your business, do you know who you really get?
I'm attorney Jennifer Lackey. You want to talk to your lawyer. You don't want to reach a call center, not in some office 100 miles away. With the Lackey Law Firm, that never happens. My clients talk to me.
And me. I'm attorney Justin Lackey. We're the ones that you talk to. We're the ones that you meet with.
And we're the ones who handle your personal injury case. You want to talk to me? You just call me.
And we'll take care of it. You worry about getting well. We'll take care of the rest.
The Lackey Law Firm.
And I'll go you one better. If you can't come to us, we'll come to you.
The Lackey Law Firm. The Lackey Law Family. 1-800-4-RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Tom Abraham here from my friend Brian Hamaker and his team at North Alabama Mortgage. Look, buying a home is the biggest purchase you will make in your life, and it can be a bit intimidating, so you want people that can help walk you through the mortgage process and get you the best deal possible. That's what North Alabama Mortgage does, and they do it in Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, from first-time purchases to refis, conventional, VA, FHA, and USDA loans. They have the solution at North Alabama Mortgage. Visit NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more. That's NorthAlabamaMortgage.com. What's better than Valley Equipment Rental? 2 Valley Equipment Rentals, and that's just what we have now. The original on the South Memorial Parkway between Drake and Airport Road, and their second location on North Memorial Parkway just north of Winchester Road. Valley Equipment is locally owned and has more skid steers, excavators, and lifts than anyone in the area, plus all the small tools that you need to get the job done like a pro. And if you are a pro, you need to check out the new North location now because Valley Equipment has what you need. Learn more at valleyequipmentrents.com.
Jay, give us an overview.
Yeah, a couple things. Sorry for the delay. It's one of the greatest moments of my life, honestly. Number one. Number two, couldn't be more proud of our team. I think that exemplifies the talent on this roster, but more importantly, the character and the people. And as I look to my left, I just see 3 great players that are better people than they are players. The best pitched college baseball game I have ever seen from both sides. Obviously, what Paul did was spectacular. What Thatcher did was spectacular. You know, you might see 4 pitchers that were on that mound tonight from both teams that will pitch in Major League Baseball All-Star games. And hat tip to Coach Walter and Wake Forest. I mean, we just slayed a giant tonight, and that was special. And lastly, look to my left. If you're one of the best players in the transfer portal, there's only one place to come play because last summer I spent a lot of time with these young men, and I think they would tell you they made the right choice. So I'd want to join forces with them if they're out there.
Okay, Jay. First of all, we'll have questions to the student athletes. Once again, raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you, and we'll start here with Michael. Saw him first.
Tommy, earlier the week you told us that you weren't freaking out. Yeah, everybody's freaking out on the internet, I think is what you said. But how confident were you despite the struggles here in Omaha?
I mean, I'm always confident in the box. That's just how I play the game. I don't think I was struggling, but I thought I was doing all right.
You're not.
But, no, yeah, I was super confident, just doing my deal. That's about it.
Okay, right here.
Lev Skotnick, World Baseball Network. Tommy, can you just take us through the pitch, what you were looking for and how you prepped for that at bat?
Yeah, so I was definitely going for heater. I thought a heater was coming, but I was very amped up, and I saw a slider that was up, and I could get my bat head to it, so that was about it.
Okay, Aaron.
Aaron Fitt, D1 Baseball. Paul, I think a lot of people would probably agree with Jay here that this was one of the greatest baseball games that we've seen here in a long time. To be right in the middle of that, to be on the mound, you know, against Louder, this kind of epic duel. How do you kind of describe the whole experience of it?
To be honest, I think it might have been cooler for the people in the stands than it was for me, just because all it comes down to is just executing. I didn't watch a whole lot of Louder's outing. Obviously, he did really well, executed really well, but just comes down to slowing the game down and going out there and executing.
Okay, go to here, Leah.
Leah Van, Baton Rouge Advocate. Paul, I mean, you come in on probably your shortest amount of rest you've had all season, and I'm just wondering, what did the conversation about starting today look like? Was there ever any doubt? And just how did you feel about coming out for a second appearance at the College World Series?
There was no doubt. I know, our strength coach is Wes. I knew everyone was going to do everything in their power to get me ready. Everyone's going to get everyone else on the staff ready to pitch, 2 or 3 more times for the bullpen arms. But there was no doubt in my mind. And to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot of conversation.
Okay.
Mike Farrar, Berg Sports Network. Paul, can you kind of describe about, I don't know if you saw on the Jumbotron that you broke the SEC and the LSU strikeout record. Could you describe what that moment is like for you?
I've gotten to talk with Ben a lot, and he called a lot of our games. Obviously, he had a really good career at LSU and in the major leagues. It's cool, and it's cool to leave a legacy.
Okay, Michael.
This is for Paul and for Tommy. I guess just you guys saw the bunt coming, but Trey being able to make the play that he did and with the quickness and fluidity that he did. From your perspective, what do you guys think of that?
Paul, you start.
I think he showed everyone in the country that he's the most athletic first baseman out there. To be honest, I saw him lay the bunt down, and Trey kind of just came flying in and made the play and picked me up.
Tommy?
Yeah, as soon as I saw the bunt, like the angle of the bat, I knew it was going to first, and I didn't see Trey. I was like, oh, God, they're going to score. And then he came flying out of nowhere, and Milazzo put a great tag on, so that was pretty awesome.
Over here.
Thatcher, Glenn Wesco, 247. When you're watching the pitchers duel like that through 8 innings, and then you come out and you have to go, 9, 10, 11 to just kind of keep that up. I mean, just what kind of mentality goes into that? And Paul, I guess, could speak to that too. Just getting those final 9 outs there to kind of give your offense the time to win it.
Yeah, I mean, like Coach says all the time, it's just all about execution. And I was going to do anything to get that win out for us. I wasn't going to let us down.
Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I was with him between innings, super level-headed, and he knew that it just came down to what he went out there and did, or what he was going to go out there and do. If you keep it simple and make it about executing, it's a really simple game.
Okay, Matt?
Matt DeMarinis, white and blue review for Thatcher. Brock Wilkin up with 2 runners on, big spot. What'd you go through mentally, and what'd you do to execute to get out of that situation?
I was going to go out the strike zone, trust my defense, throw everything with full conviction.
Okay, Michael.
For Paul and Tommy, this was a goal to get to this spot right now. And talking to the guys in the field, they said a lot of it is, this wasn't the end goal kind of thing. Just your thoughts on now being in a title series and what's ahead.
Paul?
Yeah, the whole year we knew we could do it. And that was the primary goal when we had a meeting like January 14th or something like that. And the goal, for this season was to win a national championship. And, everything along the way would be a bonus. This was, what we've had our eyes on all year. And it's really cool to be here now.
Tommy?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. But yeah, it's just going to come down to execution, just playing the game one pitch at a time. We know what to do. We know what we got to do. And we're just going to play our game, hope for the best.
We got Mike Farron back here.
Mike Farron, Sirius XM. Tommy, after the celebration, you went and embraced, I think, Camden and Massey. I know you guys were close. Why was that important for you to do? And what a number of your teammates started doing that with Wake players. Why was that important tonight?
I mean, their season's over. It's a very hard time. They had high expectations coming into this, and they played great. But I've known Camden and Bennett Lee for quite some time now. We're all from Tampa, and yeah, he's I played with him, against him, growing up my whole life, and yeah, I mean, he's one of my close friends. So I didn't want him to feel anything. I just wanted to make sure he was all right.
Okay, we'll go to Leah for the last question for the players.
Tommy, y'all face a tough pitcher in Rhett Lauder tonight. Seeing him this entire night, what was difficult about hitting against him?
Yeah, he executed every pitch. He threw all pitches for strikes, and he worked fast. Yeah, he pitched great, but that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you. Remind you that we'll have LSU back here tomorrow morning. Our Florida part of the news conference will start at 11. About 11:20, 11:25, we'll have both coaches here for photo op, and then LSU news conference will follow that tomorrow morning with Jay and players to be named. So, first question for Jay, and we'll go back here with Matt, and then.
Yeah, Jay, you've been a part of some really memorable ones. You've won a national championship. What about tonight differentiates it in terms of how special you feel it was?
Yeah, I'll correct you. I have not won a national championship. That's okay. I lost a heartbreaker, 2 one-run games in the finals.
But yeah, I'd like to try this thing through the winners bracket one time. That's pretty special. I mean, I was not over exaggerating. That is one of the greatest moments of my entire life, what happened on that field tonight.
Okay, back here.
Jay, Wilson here from The Advocate. In all the plays that were in this game that were so close, how much, when you think back on this maybe years from now, are you going to remember Trey Morgan crashing and flipping that ball to Alex Milazzo?
Yeah, we work on it all the time, and I'll tell you, it was a big benefit who we played to get to this point. You know, when you look at Tulane, you look at Oregon State, you look at Kentucky, that's three of the best bunting teams in the country, and both going into the regional and the super regional, we spent a large amount of time on punt coverages to both sides, safety squeeze defense, and we've finally been able to get him back over to first base here, you know, in the postseason, you know, because he's healthy enough to do it. And what a play. I mean, nobody's played better in this World Series than Trey, and there hasn't been a bigger play in this World Series than that bunt play.
Okay, Michael.
I saw you smirk when they asked you about Paul getting the ball today. Just kind of elaborate, I guess, a little bit more on the no conversation.
Yeah, so it was pretty simple. You know, we lost a very good baseball game on Monday night. Like, I mean, that was high-level stuff. I mean, if you rolled that out at Fenway Park or Yankee Stadium and you put big league uniforms on both teams, you probably wouldn't know the difference. That was a tough loss. And when you're in that 2-0 game or 1-0 game, everybody knows the importance of it, only having to win one versus to win three. That was a heartbreaker. We played good against another good pitcher. You know, Hartle's one of the best pitchers I've seen in a long time. And so I felt like they just needed to be reminded of, we definitely can do this. Two things. I mean, my team in 2016 did it, and LSU did it in 2017. So we weren't, you know, doing something that was going to be unprecedented. So you start there. And then the pregame speech to Tuesday was a really simple speech on the whiteboard in our meeting room. I just wrote out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And on Tuesday, I wrote Nate's name down with 8 other pitchers. And then we just drew lines over to Wednesday. It was going to be somebody in that grouping of 9. Thursday, I wrote down Skeens, Hurd. I wrote down Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, one game, this team to win the national title. I looked at it and goes, anybody got any questions whether we can do this or not? Great, let's get on the bus. And that was basically the announcement that Paul would pitch today.
Okay, over here. Okay.
Clint Yates, ESPN. Getting back to Trey, can you talk a little bit more about his development overall and what it was like for him dealing with the outfield when that injury situation was what it was before he got back?
Yeah, he's a special competitor. I mean, you know, he's meant so much to our team these last couple years. And when it matters the most, that's when you get the best. And we've seen that the whole NCAA tournament, regional, super regional, for sure. And then here in Omaha, the situation is never bigger than his plan. His competitive nature is spectacular. Then you add that with elite hand-eye, bat-to-ball skills, defensive versatility to play first base, athleticism to go to the outfield. You know, there's not many guys that have all that skill set. And there'll be a professional team when this is all said and done that will have a talent that's also a winner that can do pretty much anything.
Okay, next question for Jay. Michael.
Same question I asked the guys about just this being the goal but not done kind of thing. From your mindset now, you've wanted it so bad for these guys, and now they're in the title series.
Yeah, I think I haven't thought a lot about that just yet. You know, we immerse ourselves in the present moment. I mean, going into the NCAA tournament, we talked about this team's had to deal with a lot of this thought of they're perfect because of their talent and their expectations. And, you know, John Wooden used to say, you know, winning is just about playing near your capability all the time. And I think we really settled in. We haven't tried to do too much, and we've really stayed in the moment. I think that was exhibited really well, which is why, you know, Paul pitched the first game of the NCAA tournament. I'd be a hypocrite if I said that, and then you don't lead with your ace against a team that was playing its best baseball. And so that was done for that reason. And so I just think we've been so immersed in that now that this is here, it's not a surprise. And I will tell you, this is the first team that I've ever coached that I believed could win a national championship. hands down. And so in that meeting that Paul was referencing to, what do you want to do? Like literally me asking them, what do you want to accomplish? And it was kind of quiet. And I was like, no, okay, we want a national championship. Came out of Dylan's mouth. Are you sure? And then it's quiet. No, wait a minute. We got to be really sure if this is what we're going to try to go do. And then, so we put it up there, and it's just basically our road to the top. And then it wasn't about doing that. Now it was about how are we going to do it? You know, every step along the way, you know, both within the program and controllable things of, are we going to be selfless? Are we going to have a strong mental game where we can recover from failure, resist the urge to be complacent? And then it's into the baseball stuff, because the game doesn't change of what's required. And then we outline the things from the mound, defensively, offensively, from the bases that we felt like would be required to attain that long-term goal, and laid it all out. And these guys have stuck to it every single day.
Okay, Leah, this will be our last question for this session.
I mean, obviously we had the star-studded matchup with Paul and Rhett Lauder, but what do you have to say about Thatcher and the decision to leave him in the game, you know, when you had a couple of guys warming up in the bullpen in late innings?
Well, we didn't have anybody warming up. We had Gavin playing light toss. You're talking about leaving Thatcher in, I'm guessing? Yeah. That is one of the best college teams I've seen in a long time. I mean, not just this year. They had one of the most remarkable seasons I've ever seen. But that pitching staff, in my opinion, has 7 guys that will pitch in the major league someday. 7. I mean, that's a lot. And they're really, really hard to deal with. It was a funnel of pitchers that were going to be available today. And, you know, we wanted to get Paul as long as we could. I'm really proud of him for getting us through 8. I think it took that to win the game, honestly. And then there was only one guy that was going to get the ball after that. And we would have used him to close the game last night if we needed to. I didn't want to do that because I knew he would be needed today, and it gave him an extra day after Monday. And he was spectacular. I think there was one walk, and there was only 1 3-ball count the entire time he was on the mound.
Jay, thank you. We'll see you in the morning.
We'll see you in the morning.
Yep. Thanks, buddy.
The Blitz has been called.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart from other appliance dealerships?
Wes, these appliances are going into the most used room in your house, your kitchen. The way we have these appliances displayed, it's easy for you to visualize how they'll look in your home. Wes, what sets us apart is the people. They're well trained. In fact, they live and breathe these appliances. And if you need service, you'll really appreciate our parts department.
Contact Bob Wallace Appliance at 256-533-2121.
Great food and the best live entertainment is what it's all about at the Furniture Factory Bar and Grill. Head to downtown Huntsville every Tuesday for karaoke on the only outdoor karaoke stage in North Alabama. Thursday night is the Valley's longest running and biggest bike night. Food and drink specials, giveaways, and live music on the patio. And the Furniture Factory menu is fully loaded with options from steaks to salads, plus a whole lot more. Featuring a weekday happy hour that starts at 3. 619 Meridian Street, downtown Huntsville, and online at FurnitureFactoryBarGrill.com.
With us today, Dr. Tracy Lowry of Best Vein Care of Huntsville.
When we evaluate a patient and they indeed have significant venous disease, most third-party payers, private insurance, Medicare, require us to treat every patient conservatively at least 90 days. Conservative treatment includes increasing ambulation, elevation of the legs, and the wearing of compression stockings. It's very common for folks to come see us in March or April wanting to have their veins fixed before they go into swimsuits starting in June. When we see someone in March or April, they're going to require at least 90 days of conservative treatment before we can even go to the insurance carrier to get permission to treat their veins. So if you think you have a venous problem, now is the time to come in and get a free screening so we can determine whether or not you need something evaluated. If you have a vein problem or you think you may have a vein problem, now's the time to contact us at bestvaincarehuntsville.com.
Welcome back as we wrap up another week of the Recruiting Blitz on Blitz Sports Radio. I am D Squared. Big thanks earlier in the show to Scott Whittle, an NBA and college basketball recruiting analyst. worked many years in player development with the Orlando Magic and the Boston Celtics with Coach Doc Rivers, so he has a unique understanding of the NBA draft and the process, and of course does a great job as a recruiting analyst, still involved with the EYBL circuit with the Nike Elite Stars, and has seen some of the best talent come through the state of Alabama. One young man he's very close with saw his dream come to reality last night, Colby Jones, and I'll eat crow on that. Colby was a Pinson Valley Indian. He transferred to Mountain Brook, played for Scott Whittle's AAU program in the state of Alabama, and I wasn't sold on Colby. I thought he was a really good player. I thought he was brilliant. He had academics where he could go to Harvard, but I thought he'd be a guy that was a role player, somebody that would help you win, but wouldn't be a big enough scorer, and definitely I didn't think would be an NBA type guy and be drafted. I thought he would just be someone that would be a fabric guy that would definitely contribute to winning, but wouldn't be a frontline all-conference performer. Completely wrong. Really, he was another Herb Jones, and really a more offensively talented Herb Jones, though both I think are going to have excellent NBA careers. Certainly Herb has improved his shooting and is on the way to having a great pro career. And when you look at Colby Jones, he became, under Sean Miller, one of the best players in the Big East at Xavier, and now is drafted 34th overall by the Hornets. Could have been a teammate of Brandon Miller and Nick Smith, two guys that played in the SEC, but he ended up getting traded to the Sacramento Kings. But they're a playoff team with De'Aaron Fox, and made the playoffs for the first time in many, many years, and have an outstanding young squad, so he could definitely help impact winning there. He's a Marcus Smart level impact guy, except, really a better offensive player probably than Smart, and has been improving a lot as a shooter. So congrats to Colby Jones. And as we said earlier in the show, what a historic night for Alabama. 2 first-round draft choices for the first time since the 90s, and that would be Brandon Miller, number 2 overall to the Charlotte Hornets, and Noah Clowney, number 21 overall to the Brooklyn Nets. And Scott Whittle was the one that told me he would not fall below the Brooklyn Nets at 22, and he had been invited to the green room for a reason. That was his promise, and that shows you how connected Scott still is in the NBA circles. And again, we appreciate his time and giving us his insight. And then, of course, so historic for our city, for the second time in 3 years, a first-round draft choice after never having one in our history. And this time it's historical because with all the great athletes that have come out of Lee, including Conridge Holloway, who was a first-round baseball draft pick, first African-American quarterback in SEC history in the early 70s, and then went on to a long career in the Canadian Football League, plus played a year of college baseball and was all SEC at Tennessee. Probably the greatest athlete to ever grace our city, and of course the recently renovated athletic complex named in his honor over at Lee High School. But they'd never had a first-round draft pick come out of the Huntsville City school system, and of course Lee in the NBA never had one drafted out of Lee High basketball-wise, even though Darian Stewart was a very high-level athlete, great basketball player. Conridge Holloway was in his own right. But Kobe Brown makes history as the first Lee basketball player ever drafted, and now the first Huntsville City Schools basketball player to go in the first round, as the Clippers take him with the final pick of the first round. Many thought, that he might have decided to withdraw from the draft, either go back to Missouri for another year, a COVID year, or even going to the transfer portal. Could have ended up maybe coming back to his home state and suiting up for the University of Alabama. But he obviously made the right decision. He was very arduous and patient with the process in the NBA, and was drafted in the first round, last pick by the Clippers. Gets a contract that's going to be worth a 4-year, looks like $12.2 million deal with an option. So Kobe with a great opportunity with an owner that's building a new building, that's investing, and that wants to win. And he gets to go to and learn from Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, hopefully, and have a very, long, hopefully, pro career, going to a great situation. So couldn't have worked out any better for the Scholar Athlete of the Year in the SEC. What an honor that was, and what an honor it was to award him with the first ever Rocket City Award for the best college player of the year from the Tennessee Valley. As far as playing outside of North Alabama, but you have Tennessee Valley roots, and he won that award over Denver Jones from FIU and Buckhorn now at Auburn, and Michaela Merard, the golfer at USC. But an all-SEC first-team season for Kobe Brown last year as a senior, first-team all-SEC. Just tremendous under Dennis Gates, got them to 23 wins in the NCAA tournament, and just was tremendous, and now gets a shot to play in the NBA, and we're so happy for him. And Greg Brown, his coach and father, and his mother, and Caleb, his brother, the entire Brown family, who has meant so much to everyone here in the city of Huntsville. But also just wanted to, congratulate LSU once again on that epic win in 11 innings, 2-0. Tommy White with a walk-off 2-run homer. As you heard, we had that press conference just a little bit ago. Jay Johnson and Tommy White and those guys, Paul Skeens. What a job by LSU as they were able to outlast an unbelievable Wake Forest team that put out Alabama. And, I'll toot my own horn. I got the prediction right before the College World Series. I said Florida and LSU. Now, I've picked Florida. We'll see if I get that right. But they will start on Saturday night in the College World Series Finals. So really excited about that and really looking forward to it. But everybody, have a great rest of your weekend. And don't forget, later today, the afternoon Blitz with the Bandyman, Bailey Lowry, Captain Cool, John Abraham, and they will bring you quality sports talk. And don't forget our sponsor, Alumni Hall, alumnihall.com at the Bridge Street Town Center. They've moved from their longtime location just down from the Apple Store. They are next to Belk right now. And then later in early August, they will be over next to the Buckle. And they'll have their biggest square footage store yet, and they're going to add Tennessee to the repertoire, but they can take care of any of your Alabama or your Auburn needs. And if you need another team or as far as some gear from around the SEC in the South, check out their network of sites at alumnihall.com. They have very reasonable shipping, especially if you join their email list, and they'll send you flash sale information and put you in the Hall Pass Rewards program. For every $150, you get 10 free bucks, and you can stack those. And if you spend $100, the shipping is free. So our friends at Alumni Hall, they're allowing us to continue to grow. We've been on the air since late July, and we appreciate their sponsorship. Go see Andy and the whole crew. But everybody have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday at 9 a.m. It's really been a great show and a historic one. And again, congratulations to Kobe Brown and his family. He's now an LA Clipper, first-round draft pick, guaranteed contract. And, of course, we're going to have full coverage on our sister station, 97.7 The Zone, starting on Saturday night with LSU and Florida for the national championship, the Southeastern Conference, with yet another national champion coming as it's an all-SEC final. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Guys, when we were 20, we never had to worry about spontaneity. And now that we've gotten older, spontaneity has been replaced with pills